Okay, so we'll go on to the fifth movement of Hector Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique, the Fantastic Symphony. Fantastic in the sense of not great, but in the sense of weird imagination, right? So where the imagination goes under the influence of opium, apparently. Now, I'll read you the program for the fifth movement. This is called The Dream of the Witch's Sabbath. Again, supernatural imagery, right? So the witch, and we're going to do another one of those, by the way, another Witch's Sabbath later on by Mussorgsky, just a moment of it. Romanticists were fascinated by anything. Now we're getting to program music, so we're looking at things that happen in kind of a sense of a storyline. Of course, they drew very heavily from the notion of spirits and ghosts and witches and supernatural beings, because that was fascinating to them. We saw that already in the ghosts, or at least what could have been ghosts of the monks in the picture of the Abbey graveyard in snow. Okay, here we go. So the Dream of Witch's Sabbath, fifth movement. It's called Larghetto, which is a fairly slow beginning, and then it changes to Allegro, which is quite fast. This is really weird, this, and I'm going to show you a couple parts of it so that you get a sense of what he's doing here, if possible. He sees himself, he is the character, partly Berlioz, partly a fictitious character based on Berlioz. He sees himself at a witch's Sabbath, in the midst of a hideous crowd of ghouls, sorcerers, and monsters of every description. I like that, of every description. United for his funeral. Strange voices, groans, shrieks of laughter, distant cries, which other cries seem to answer. Notice what he's doing. He's taking all these audio ideas, right? So strange, supernatural cries, groans, things, rather than to start his musical inspiration with a sense of form, which is what a classical artist would have done, right? Sonata, allegro, themes and variations, whatever that form might be. He's taking it from this, first of all, a program, and secondly, not only a program, but a program which draws on an idea of some kind of supernatural something or other, groans and shrieks. Obviously, shrieks don't come in antecedents and consequence, right? So the very starting point of this inspiration, of musical inspiration, is somewhere very different than we're used to in the classical tradition. Moving on. The melody of the loved one is heard. That's that idée fixe that I played a moment ago. But it has lost its character of nobleness and timidity. In other words, the music has transformed into something very different. It is no more than a dance tune, ignoble, trivial, and grotesque. I'll play it for you, what he does with this theme in a moment, so you get a sense of what he's done with it. It's quite clever. It is she who comes to the Sabbath. So the beloved that he's thinking of has come to the Sabbath. A howl of joy greets her arrival from, of course, all the supernatural creatures. She participates in the diabolical orgy, the funeral knell, burlesque of the dies irae. Now the dies irae, it means the day of wrath, or the day of something like that, the day of wrath. And it's an old melody that goes back hundreds of years to the Middle Ages that was used in death masses, in the funeral masses. But he takes that into this movement and mixes it up with a strange transformation of that melody that he has for his beloved, and turns it into kind of a grotesque witch's Sabbath, right? So the witches are dancing to this tune that used to be his beloved, this beautiful love theme, and has now turned into something like mocking and sinister. And then in behind that, and along with it, comes this old melody, which I'll play for you from the Middle Ages, which is used by many composers throughout the centuries. Mozart used it in his Requiem, for example, which is one other example. Where were we? So the funeral knell, burlesque of the dies irae, witches dance, and the dance and the dies irae are combined. So you get this weird combination of witches sort of mocking him after he's dead, and this old funeral mass happening at the same time. It's actually very funny in a way, but it's also kind of clever. This is the movement in which we get that E-flat clarinet. When the E-flat clarinet is one of the instruments that plays this mocking transformation of the theme. Now, I'll see if I can show you. The idée fixe was